We've got some chaos going on around Major League Baseball right now, shaking up the sports world. We've got to talk in specifically details around Shohei Ohtani and the news of his now fired interpreter. We're going to talk about the Phillies roster moves, updates, who gets those final spots, bullpen arms, Pache, Rojas, Walker, and we've got to also take a look back in history because on this day, a very historic moment happened here in Philadelphia. Welcome to PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli, Jamie Lynch, myself, Renee Washington. Happy Thursday, guys. We are nearing the end of March, and it's a lot of madness going on, and not just on the basketball court. Some chaos going on the baseball field, and honestly in sports in general right now.
It is two of the best days of the year.
It is.
Today and tomorrow.
It is. So listen, we saw earlier today, Manny Machado and the Padres won to split the Seoul series. We've been learning more about Mrs. Ohtani. We've been getting our first looks at Shohei Ohtani and the new look Dodgers. But the biggest story, massive theft that came out. Now here's the
theft. Yeah, okay.
Here's the latest that's come out from around the news of Shohei Ohtani and his interpreter, whose name I'm probably not going to say correctly, but the interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, who has now been fired as of Wednesday night, was involved with robbing Ohtani of millions of dollars, engaging in some illegal sports betting with an allegedly illegal bookmaker. And now there's been a federal investigation that's been launched. Ohtani did not have any comments on it today, but his lawyers have come out and been speaking about what's going on. And he also had a spokesperson saying how Ohtani did at one point transfer funds to cover Mizuhara's gambling debt. Of course, there's been a lot going on here. So lots of details that we're still getting. And of course, it's going to take some time for us to finally iron out what's going on. But the Dodgers did release a statement after firing the interpreter yesterday. And that they also came out and were mentioning, the fact that we've fired him. The Dodgers are aware of media reports and are gathering information. The team can confirm that interpreter Ippei Mizuhara has been terminated. The team has no further comment at this time. And those gambling debts, Jamie, millions of dollars that had been gambled on national soccer matches and other sports, but not baseball, starting back in 2021. And the gambling debts reached as much as $4.5 million. Holy moly.
Yeah. As Chris Carter would say, you got to have a fall guy. And look, we're not going to know what happens here for a little while, but what we do know is that Major League Baseball is going to do everything they can to save the face of the league, the sport, the highest paid player ever, a guy that's an international superstar. At best case for Shohei, he is violating the league's CBA. At worst case for Shohei, he is illegally gambling with an illegal bookmaker and trying to cover the tracks. Here's the facts that we do know in the order that it happened. An Ohtani spokesperson told ESPN, because apparently ESPN has been working on this story since January when it first came out. An Ohtani spokesperson told ESPN that Ohtani covered Mizuhara's gambling debt, which ESPN learned was up to $4.5 million. That same spokesperson delivered Mizuhara to ESPN, who said in an interview that Ohtani was never involved with the betting and he paid off his personal debts out of friendship. It's a good friend, huh? And then the Ohtani spokesperson backtracked, telling ESPN that Mizuhara's initial account is untrue and that Ohtani is the victim of massive theft. Mizuhara then changed his story, saying Ohtani had no knowledge of Mizuhara's gambling debts and that Ohtani had never transferred money to the bookmaker. Lot to digest there.
Lots.
I think the original story that Mizuhara confirmed said he paid off his personal debts. I think Ohtani and his camp immediately realized that would be a violation of the CBA and tried to change their story hastily, quickly. If he's covering his friend's gambling debts, it's an illegal bookmaker.
Yeah.
And he's in the state of California. So regardless, then my next thought goes to what... First of all, what a great friend if he's actually covering $4.5 million for him. What bookie is going to extend a line of credit to a translator making... Let's go on the high side and say he was making $200,000 a year. What bookmaker is going to stake that man $4.5 million? Then you have the bank wiring. And I know Mickey Durkin in our chat has worked in banking before. I read something from a banker last night who deals in... big money wire transfers, and they said it would be next to impossible for somebody not named Shohei Ohtani to conduct those transfers because there's secondary checks, there's signature scans, there's all sorts of stuff, and they speculated that it would be very hard for Ohtani to have not been involved with this. So that's what leads me to the best case for Shohei is that he violated the CBA. Now, the MLB doesn't going to want to suspend him, but you have to think a suspension is on the table here for Shohei Ohtani because at worst, I don't know how, or at best for him, I don't know how he avoids this.
Yeah, this is not great at all. I know in the chat, Chris, first of all, congrats on being first. You guys are talking about this, and there's a lot of Chris, Dave, Randy, Mickey, a lot of similar thoughts. Matt as well of like, first of all, how does your interpreter have access to your funds?
He shouldn't.
And you should not. Now,
I don't even have access to my own funds.
We know. You literally don't.
I mean, like,
Mizuhara has been Ohtani's interpreter since 2018, back with the Angels. He and Ohtani
like
clearly have a great,
I
was going to say, they clearly have a great relationship, understandably so. But I don't have a single friend in my life that has access to my bank accounts. And as you mentioned, you don't even have access to your own bank accounts.
I barely know what bank I have.
Okay. Now, Mizuhara did mention, I want everyone to know Shohei had zero involvement in betting. I want people to know I did not know this was illegal. I learned my lesson the hard way. I will never do sports betting ever again. It just all is very questionable. And it seems like there is a scapegoat here. And it does. I know you guys are also kind of making the same points of like, how did he have no involvement? Is Ohtani, essentially is the blame being pushed to the interpreter? And it does seem that way. And like you said, Jamie, regardless, on some level, it's hard to think Ohtani is completely innocent in this. $4.5 million from your bank account. That's your first being told you transferred to help cover the gambling debt. There's a problem right there. If you were not covering the gambling debt, then you now have money that's being stolen from you. And how are people, like you mentioned, getting the signatures and everything to steal that much money from you? It's just a lot of things that the math ain't mathin'. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And now, I know you guys are mentioning, we've seen this before in the past, what will Major League Baseball do? This is the face of the league. We spent the entire offseason talking about Shohei Ohtani and this legendary deal that he just got with all this deferred money and everything, and how he's doesn't need to get paid now. He's getting money off of endorsements. Okay, well, we're learning that there's some other money that's being moved around for Shohei Ohtani, allegedly not by him though, but it's not a good look at all.
And like, even if he is his best friend and right-hand man, like in whatever, Shohei's not like he has a finance guy. He is a lawyer. He is a finance guy.
I just find it hard to believe he has no idea $4.5 million.
His interpreter should not have access to millions and millions of dollars. And then in the inverse of that, if Shohei actually was robbed of $4.5 million, you don't think his finance guy is going to flag that and be like, "Hey, Shohei, what's this transfer?"
Since 2021.
What are these $500,000 transfers I don't know anything about? Can you explain those to me? I mean, the smell test on this absolutely stinks. Now, I've seen Pete Rose's name mentioned in the chat. One big differentiator here is Pete Rose bet on baseball.
Right, and that's what was clear. They did mention, now we don't know for sure,
but it's an illegal bookie.
They have said it's all international. It's soccer, it's other sports, it's not baseball. It is an illegal bookie. So at the end of the day, there's still something that doesn't pass the smell test. I know Chris in the chat, what's up, Chris? You're saying, if he had power of attorney, would he need Shohei's approval? Why would he have access? Oh, I just knocked the mic. Why would he have power of attorney or access at all? Like that, again, I don't know if any of you guys, because you obviously have already mentioned you don't even have access to your own money. I don't know if any of you guys have anybody in your life outside of maybe your spouse that has access to your funds, your banking. You're raking in millions and millions of dollars. You just launched this logo with New Balance. You just got this, incredible deal with the Dodgers. You mean to tell me somebody has access to your money outside of you and your wife? No way.
It's a little fishy.
Doesn't make sense.
And Mickey says, what if you bet on baseball? We'll wait for those details to come out. I saw some pretty funny some memes this morning that was like, when you realize you bet the when you bet the Padres over, but you lost the game in the old Alonzo morning. Twitter was on fire last night. Pretty much, I think everybody, more or less, joking or not, thinks Ohtani is definitely implicated in this in one way or another. Because, if he did steal the money, then he should fire his finance guy. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's the other thing. Somebody else has to be thrown under the bus for this.
You got to have a fall guy.
Yeah, and I know Mickey's mentioning the chat, who does have that banking experience. He could be an authorized signer on the account, which would allow him to transfer without Shohei. But I don't know about you guys, and I don't just do this because of Rocket Money. I legitimately know every cent coming in and out of my account. I'm nowhere near making millions of dollars. I find it hard to believe that for 3 years. Now, again, we first heard that Shohei was transferring the funds to him. Shohei was transferring the funds to him to be able to help cover the gambling debt. Then we're told Shohei is now unaware of the money being transferred. Either way, I don't know about you guys, but I'm also aware of everything going in and out of my bank accounts. You're getting alerts, especially massive transfers like this. That's not quietly happening without you. Maybe one time his interpreter forges a signature, but for 3 years, Shohei's had no idea with, as you mentioned, finance guys, lawyers, all that he has around him and his team.
Yeah.
That's problematic too.
One of my favorite jokes online last night was they should do the reverse Jordan with him, where, MJ was sent to minor league baseball for 2 years there. They should send Shohei Ohtani down to the G League and see him hoop a little bit. I mean, if Shohei's playing down in Delaware for the Blue Coats, I will make that trip down there to watch him hoop. I watched the Dodgers-Padres game in here on the Dodgers Network this morning on the MLB app, and I was very curious about the post-game show. Adrian Gonzalez is one of their hosts, by the way, and there was a 3-man studio set. They strictly only talked about, no surprise here, but they only talked about the game. Shohei then in the locker room afterwards was apparently fenced off by Dodgers PR, and media was told he won't be speaking today. And somebody said, well, yeah, his interpreter's gone. Oh, yeah, Yamamoto's in the same locker room. I'm pretty sure they could find a slide-in interpreter if they actually wanted to get in front of this.
Not the reason.
But, Major League, it's going to be very interesting. This is a massive story and one that's probably not going to go away anytime soon. I mean, look, it's the face of the team. If it comes out. Oh, and another angle of this is the bookie. Let me just find the exact quote here. Was basically more or less telling people that Ohtani was one of his clients. There is a lot in here that's just really bad for Ohtani, and we'll see what happens. But the bookie was more or less said he never met Ohtani. He said the bets were international soccer and other sports, but that he was, basically alluding to people that Ohtani was one of his clients in hopes of drumming up the business. So, baseball wants this to go away. I don't think it's going to go away. And is he going to get a Pete Rose suspension? I would highly, highly doubt it. But I think some suspension of some magnitude is going to be in order here because, as we said, at best for him, he was still breaking the league's CBA and wire transferring illegal bookies' money. So helping a friend or not, MLB and the Dodgers, I'm sure, are going to do everything in their power to minimize this. But good luck. This seems like a massive story.
It is. And, as you look at that timeline, and actually Ohtani and Mizuhara met back in 2013, so they've known each other over a decade, back when Ohtani was in Japan playing. And when you look at the timeline of the $500,000 loans, as they were listed as, that were transferred from Ohtani's name on two $500,000 transfers sent, in the span of September to October 2023. The math, again, it doesn't add up. And there's a lot of questionable things here that do not make sense. And at the very least, if Ohtani was at all even involved in conversations with, with him or Bowyer is his name, Matthew Bowyer is the bookmaker that met Mizuhara back at a poker game in San Diego in 2021. If in any way he knew his interpreter was gambling and sent him money to cover it to anything, that is illegal. And so the hardest part is we are now in week 1. The Seoul series was kicking off 2024. And here we are with a crazy, crazy story that's going to just shake up, forget just baseball, but sports and bigger than that.
Yeah.
And so it's here we've been so excited for the 2024 season. We've been looking forward to games starting. And here we are.
Yeah,
Mass chaos.
John's like, well, don't worry. We are going to bitch about Taijuan Walker. But this honestly has the possibility of being one of the bigger sports stories, not only of the year, but of the past couple years. I mean, depending on what, transpires here. So we will get to it, but we felt as though Ohtani had to be addressed right off the bat.
And there was a comment that also came out because, again, we've been hearing comments and then they've been redacted and we've been hearing other comments that cover it. But there was a comment that Mizuhara said that Ohtani didn't simply give Mizuhara the money. Instead, he paid Bowyer's associates directly because Mizuhara claims that Ohtani didn't trust Mizuhara, the interpreter, with the money. So Mizuhara said, Ohtani didn't want me to gamble. Ohtani didn't want me to gamble it away.
That might be the first part I actually believe.
I know. Mizuhara said he told Ohtani he would pay him back, but instead Ohtani allegedly sent the money directly to the bookkeeper. Ding, ding. That's red flags are going off. So it's a lot going on. Tyler, before we move on, I didn't know if you wanted to jump in and share your thoughts on this developing case that we have here.
This is really difficult because obviously you don't want to speak in absolutes and you don't want to...
Only Sith Lords speak in absolutes.
It's a great poll by you.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to, pin this on Ohtani versus, denying culpability altogether. I almost hate to sit here and plead the fifth on communicating on this, but it's so difficult to...
Believe he's innocent?
Well, it's no. Well, I think that there's value to where there's smoke, there's fire. But I think it's really, really difficult to sit here and say he's definitively not a part of this versus he's definitively a part of this when the matching stories or the lack of matching stories continues to seem almost baffling. So, I hate to be the guy because this is entertainment and it's kind of, similar along the lines of sports talk radio where if you don't have an opinion, you have no show. But in this particular instance, I almost have to wait until more details come out to formulate an opinion because this.
But do you agree with what I said? That best case for him is he violated the CBA.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the issue. Is from just a private citizen standpoint, you can wire your buddy's money. If one of you were like, hey, Tyler, I need money. First of all, I would say I don't have $4.5 million.
Well, here's where it becomes sticky because it's a federal case. It's a California case.
Right.
And guess what? When you transfer $4.5 million worth of money, nobody got their tax cut.
Well, and I think there's issues outside of the scope of the CBA, but I think
the illegal bookie is the heart of it.
In baseball's if you just look at baseball terms, you are at minimum worried about a collective bargaining agreement breach, which if you're breaching the CBA, you're probably going to face some semblance of violation or some semblance of action because of your violation. So it's really, really difficult to sit here and say, is this a legal matter? Is this a baseball matter? Is this a...
Oh, this is a legal matter.
I think it's an everything matter.
Yeah.
So
this is one international, two federal.
Right. So for me to sit here and go definite yes, definite no, I think I need to almost plead the fifth myself and have just a pause until I get more facts.
Of course. I know in the chat you guys are sharing also, a couple of your thoughts. Eric, you're saying, can Ohtani take those deferred paychecks as bet MGM credits? Randy, you're talking about Ohtani probably thought he'd gamble more away than actually use it to pay the guy back. Sean, I know you're saying, how do you throw your hard-earned career in the trash?
MGM's caught up with Bruno Mars and his gambling debts.
Well, apparently that's not true now.
Well,
I don't know. Apparently, I saw another report that came out and said that was not true. That Bruno Mars gambling debt. Everyone's got gambling debt now. But here's what we're finding out, and of course, we're still waiting on more details. It definitely seems there's a whole gamut of issues here, and it's hard to believe that Ohtani is completely innocent. But you'd like to hope that he didn't have any involvement. So to your point, Tyler, you don't want to jump in and say he's guilty, he did it, or on the reverse, he's innocent, there's no way. You just have no idea because there's so many aspects of this. Did he loan his interpreter money? Was he robbed from his interpreter? Did he loan the bookie? Did he send money directly to the bookie? Because if he sent the bookkeeper money, that's an issue.
Are they using Venmo, Cash App? What do they do?
Oh boy. Did he know about it? Is he completely oblivious and all this was happening under his nose? There's so many questions and we'll get answers. We'll find out more and we'll continue talking about it because this is definitely bigger than baseball, the CBA. This is bigger than even California rules. This is federal. This is a federal investigation. And I know, Chris Slemmer, that's what you were mentioning. Lots of circumstantial evidence. But I'm sure the federal probe will find that what they need to find, and we'll keep finding out more as we go, guys, because this is a lot. All I can say is, and Mickey, thanks for reminding us. At one point, you guys were ready to ship me off to marry Ohtani. I was going to be Mrs. Shohei Ohtani. Thank goodness I'm not. Right now, I'd be in the midst of a federal investigation. Dodged the bullet there, possibly. But you know where else you can take advantage of some great deals and good opportunities of getting things delivered to your doorstep that taste good and are good for you? Factor Meal Kits. So over at Factor Meal Kits, they make eating that much easier for you because you don't have to worry about that annoying question of what's for breakfast, what's for lunch, what's for dinner, what do I have taste for, what do I feel like cooking, what's in the fridge? Because at Factor Meal Kits, they provide you with ready-to-eat meals. They're always fresh, never frozen meals delivered right to your doorstep, chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, restaurant quality, easy, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So at Factor Meal Kits, you get an opportunity, breakfast, lunch, dinner, pancakes, smoothies. They've got keto diets, protein plus, calorie smart diets, lots of options for you that you have a chance to take advantage of. You also have the flexibility if you ever need to pause or reschedule when you're going to get your food delivered because they've got snacks and midday bites. They've got full meals for you. You don't have to worry about the prep, the mess, the question of when can I go to the grocery store? What groceries do we need? Because with Factor Meal Kits, they make it a lot easier to have ready-to-eat meals, so there's no prepping, cooking, or even cleanup really needed. And over at Factor Meal Kits, they are the best solution to look for those fast premium options. And you can sign up today, and you can also save. With Factor Meal Kits, they said they've done the math. It's a lot cheaper and less expensive than takeout, for example. It's costly to go out to a restaurant or order takeout every single day. Instead, at Factor Meal Kits, you get a chance to eat well, eat healthy, delicious, nutritious meals, never frozen, always fresh, ready to eat. So head to factormeals.com/Phillies50 and use code Phillies50 to get 50% off. That's code Phillies50 at factormealkits.com/Phillies50 in order to get 50% off to save money today.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on right now, but it's about to be baseball season. We're 1 week away. If I was down at the stadium complex 20 years ago, was I 21? Yes, I was, unfortunately, just barely 21. I would have liked a nice ice-cold Miller Lite in my hand to watch the Vet implode next Thursday, opening day. We're going to be down at Bet Parks by the stadiums with some Miller Lite specials and baseball and Miller Lite. Friends and family getting together with your fellow comrades, your fellow Phillies fans, and cracking a cold Miller Lite in the lots. It's going to be a great day. I can taste that cold, refreshing taste of Miller Lite already. It's the original light beer since 1975, and to this day, it's still the best one because Miller Lite has all the taste you want and the stuff you don't. I texted my buddy. He's going to the game next Thursday. He said, I think I'm coming over from Jersey. Bet Parks is the first stop. It's nice and easy. I said, come on in. First Miller Lite's on me. Unprompted, his first response, I love Miller Lite. He was happy because I said, hey, buddy, swing on by. Miller Lite on me. It's baseball season. It's great time for Miller Lite. And if you enjoy friends and family and the moments that matter most, sometimes they're a little more fun with a Miller Lite in your hand. And Miller Lite gives you the taste that light beer drinkers are looking for. Everything you're not looking for and everything you're looking for, or everything you're not looking for is left out, and everything you're looking for is in that cold, delicious beer, because Miller Lite keeps it simple. Undebatable quality, great taste, and only 96 calories. It strips away the stuff you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that tastes like a beer should. Less filling and only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975, and times change, but Miller Lite doesn't, and you can always enjoy the great taste. Tastes like Miller time. Go to MillerLite.com/PHLY Phils to have Miller Lite delivered right to your door. Or you can find it pretty much everywhere that beer is sold. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Only 96 calories per 12 ounces.
Yum. All right, well, we'll continue following the news around Shohei Ohtani. I know you guys in the chat are talking about it.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall in Manfred's office this morning.
Shohei
Operation sweep under the rug.
Needing better friends, just the details of it, how it's hard to believe he's innocent. We'll continue following more and see, how this unfolds. It's going to be a story it's going to take some time. It's definitely going to be something that drags on for a while, as there's a lot of different pieces to this. All right, well, on the Phillies side, listen, we've got the lineup for today as Whit Merrifield gets things started off for the 105 start versus the Rays. Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos. Then you've got Clemens, Rojas, Sosa, Wilson, and Leplo rounds out the lineup. And Sanchez gets to start on the mound. And as we've been talking about pretty much every day at this point, we're now in the point of figuring out those final pieces. Which final pieces make most sense for the Phillies? Which guys are going to be ready come the start of the season? And I know it was mentioned in the chat around Taijuan Walker. Well, let's talk about Taijuan Walker because today's takeaways are presented by Factor. You can use code Phillies50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and free wellness shots for life with any active subscription at factormeals.com/Phillies50. Taijuan Walker continues to be one of the keys that we are watching because the Phillies, as we've talked about, as even Todd Zalecki pointed out, have potential to be the top rotation, one of the top rotations across Major League Baseball. And the biggest question mark is Taijuan Walker. Ranger Suarez, 0 runs given up so far in spring training. Been fantastic. Obviously, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler looking great. We've got the starting lineup for the kickoff of the season, opening day with Wheeler, then Nola, then Ranger. Christopher Sanchez has been looking good. Everybody in the starting pitching rotation looks great. Then there's Taijuan Walker, who, as we know, had been dealing with not only knee soreness, but also some personal issues that caused him to miss a stretch of spring training. So he, in that sense, missed some time, is behind. And he's saying now he's feeling good. His body's feeling much better. He feels like his body is moving very good, very athletic right now, moving quick. He's been really busting his butt, working hard. But when you look at the performance that Taijuan Walker has had as recently as yesterday in that Wednesday game, it's very much concerning, to say the very least. So in the game Wednesday, Walker allowed five hits, 7 runs, 3 walks, 3 home runs in 2 2/3 innings against Baltimore. Struck out 1. His fastball was around 89 to 92 miles per hour. And we saw earlier in spring training about a week ago, his fastball was around the 88 to 90 mile per hour range. Has not been a great showing for Taijuan Walker so far. And I know it's been the question, is Taijuan Walker the final piece for this rotation, or should the Phillies have gone out and got somebody like Jordan Montgomery? Of course, we heard the details of Blake Snell's offers. There have been names out there that the Phillies could have brought in, but they trusted and have been adamantly saying they trust this 5, they trust this group. But Taijuan Walker doesn't seem like he's going to be ready, at the very least, to start off the season, because he's definitely been struggling in his return back to spring training, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, he had the knee injury. He had the sickness, so he's way behind schedule. I'm going to try not to read too much into it. The velocity is certainly concerning here. You were, in reality, not going to go into the season without that 5. Like that, I feel like that was pretty locked. unless Jordan Montgomery all of a sudden goes for like a 1 year and sub $25 million deal and just wants to go to a competitor. There's no changes there. I mean, he's here for 3 more years, and it was $72 million for 4. So what's that a year? Like 18.5, something like that. 18 on the nose.
Yeah, I think it's 18 because 18 times 2, 36. 36 times 2.
That's quick
72.
math by you. I wasn't trying to do math today, so.
You know, I was terrible at math until it came to contracts, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, 14 and a half
that
million.
makes sense. Why don't you just
do it?
Why didn't you teach me math in terms of sports
Do it in
contracts?
everybody's Well, that was the thing I always used to tell people. Like the first, when you were doing your multiplication when you were a kid, the first one I nailed down was 7 because it was touchdowns. It was easy, right?
Yeah.
Like it was.
First one I nailed was 9 because you could do the trick with your fingers.
That makes sense.
But yeah, he wasn't going anywhere. You just got to hope he rights the ship. If we're bitching about the 9-hole hitter on the Phillies and the 5th starter in the rotation, that means we have a pretty good situation. I know he's paid more, but in all likelihood, Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez. Well, Ranger definitely. Christopher Sanchez has to prove it, but they're both probably better than him. He's behind. I don't think he makes his first scheduled start. That's why this active 26-man roster will be interesting. Because, I think Rojas is safe, but then you got to look at Spencer Turnbull. Does he accept his Lehigh demotion more or less because he has 5 years of service, or do you start him on the 26-man and maybe give Taijuan a little more time to turn the corner? I mean, yesterday was only his 2nd official start of spring. Right. So I'm trying not to read too much into it, but the velocity certainly is concerning. He should be, even second start or not, he's been in camp several weeks. He should be closer to that 92, 93 by now than 89. So we'll keep an eye on it. But he's an innings eater, and it's a valuable role on this team. He's just got to – he doesn't have to be great. He just has to be serviceable because most other 5s he's going to go against are going to suck. Yeah,
exactly. He is expected to have one more Grapefruit League start before the season begins. That is on Monday that we're supposed to see Taijuan Walker again. And as you mentioned, Jamie, he is still working back. I think it's hard because we look at last year's numbers and, although he was the first pitcher across the league to get to 15 wins, you look at last year's numbers and that 4.38 ERA in his 31 starts. And there were times that Taijuan Walker, you couldn't even put him out there. Come the postseason, for example, where it didn't work to have a time to use him. But Rob Thompson did mention, he's trying to find it. Hopefully he does in the next week or two. He's, Rob's always given the optimism. Taijuan was also saying, he's getting there. It's just taking a little bit slower than he would have liked. So although I know in the chat you guys are saying, let's go, Ray, you're like, let's go get Jordan Montgomery. Why have the team at 9/10 of the way and then not finish completing the roster? You guys are saying some different points. Darth Pooh, what's up, Darth Pooh? You're saying at this point you don't trust him?
Nice name, Darth Pooh. Is that a poop emoji under a Darth Vader helmet?
No, it's Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, it's Winnie. Oh, see, my child.
Oh, like Darth Vader and Winnie the Pooh.
Okay. I was
when
thinking
you say it fast, I hear Darth Pooh.
See, I'm reading a book to Skylar each night, and the word duty comes up a lot, and she giggles. And I'm like, no, Skylar, it's not that duty. It's D-U-T-Y. So,
my gosh.
I saw Pooh.
Kids love poop.
I went Pooh,
everything
not Pooh
becomes
Bear.
poop.
That's on me.
That's on you, for sure.
But that's a good name.
That is. But yeah, as you're mentioning,
Let's get a little thumbs up for Darth Pooh, huh?
Woo! As you're mentioning, you don't trust him. It is hard to trust him. Chris, you're saying with Walker, dealing with the knee soreness, keep Turnbull up. There's options there.
I think there's a chance he's on the opening day.
Yeah, I think that's where you do have the chance for a Spencer Turnbull to get that opening day call, because if Taijuan's not going to be ready, you don't want to rush him back, especially since there's no need to rush him back.
It's a long season.
And let him get back to where he's supposed to be. I know April 1st is when, as of now, if he is able to stay on course, he would get the start April 1st, which is right around the corner.
Ray Schumer says, he has knee soreness, just like Tobias Harris has knee soreness. Sure.
Tyler, you've got some numbers for us. What do you got?
I think the one thing that we need to take a look at is the velocity for Taijuan Walker has dipped each of the last 3 seasons now. 2021, his fastball was at 94.5 on average. 22 was 93.7. 2023 was 92.8. And to the point where I think Taijuan Walker's at a crossroads where he kind of needs to, I don't want to say reinvent himself a little bit, but you saw last year was the first year of his career that he threw his sinker more than he did his four-seam fastball. He threw his sinker 664 times. He threw his four-seam 493 times. And that's the first time over the course of his career that he's ever done that. He's mostly a sinker splitter pitcher. 1,500, almost 1,600 pitches between those two pitches. And then it's cutter 3 and fastball 4, which over the course of his career has actually been almost inverse, where 2022, 21, 20, 19, 18, you get the point. It's the whole entirety of his career. His four-seam fastball was his primary pitch. Now all of a sudden he's more sinker splitter because he realizes that that velo has dipped a little bit. And so to me, the velo being down compared to previous years is not a problem. The velo being down compared to last year is the problem. Because if he's going to sit mid 91, 92, that's okay. If he's sitting 88, 89, you've got a problem.
Oh, he's going to get rocked.
Yeah, you've got a problem.
After seeing him up close in person, doesn't it look like he should throw harder?
He's jacked. He's like weirdly, it doesn't like.
I mean, I know the joke is the ideal male body, but like his was kind of like the ideal male body.
And you don't really see that on TV as much.
6'3", skinny waist, like big legs, like the dude
pigeon-toed and everything. Like he's got like
I'm surprised his career velocity isn't a little bit higher.
So it was when he started.
94.
I mean, yeah, in the beginning, towards the beginning portion of his career, he was throwing a little bit harder. But even last year, like if you go through to the run value per pitch, he was at a 5 for both his splitter and his sinker, which is not bad. It's above average for sure. But the four-seam fastball was a -5 last season, which is the first time, I guess, in his career that he's hit a -5 on any one of his pitches. To counter that, 2017, his first year in the bigs, or his first year that they counted this run value based on Baseball Savant, he had a 10. So he's dropped over the course of 6 years from a 10 to a -5. The fastball's lost its touch. That is what it is. He needs to be able to utilize sinker splitter, not just like he did last year, but a little bit more effectively, I think, to be successful.
Yeah. Well, coming into spring training, one of the things that Taijuan Walker wanted to work on was the consistency of his fastball, as you actually were alluding to, Tyler, because it has dipped off. Unfortunately, it hasn't been able to do so because of the injury and missing time. So hopefully he'll be able to get that, the velocity of his fastball to be more steady and have less fluctuation. That was a big reason why he was unable to pitch in the postseason at all last year, because you just don't know what you're going to get from Taijuan Walker day to day. So we'll also hope on that one, because as we know, it doesn't seem as if Taijuan Walker is going anywhere. And hopefully with time, he'll be able to get an opportunity to continue to work on his pitch, continue to work to get better, and be able to hopefully start the season off the right way whenever he hits the mound. So lots of things to keep an eye on there. And Jamie, I know we've talked a lot about the continuous discussion of who's going to be taking those final spots on the roster. We discussed Johan Rojas yesterday. Yoro, it seems to be a lock, and multiple Phillies officials have said this spring how Yoro's continuously made improvements since the beginning of camp, even if his numbers haven't been reflecting it, that he's been showing them something outside of the stats, outside of the numbers. And I know, as we talked about, do you move him down? Do you have him on the opening day roster? Doesn't make sense to then go turn around and move him down if you've been, encouraging him and telling him he's making progress, and then you go and you start him off in 2024 in the minors after. It's just contradictory. So
yeah, Todd Zalecki had that in his newsletter yesterday, and I think that encapsulates why he'll be on the opening 26-man roster. You can't tell the kid to go work at bunting this offseason and work at this and work in that. And if the results aren't there right away, baseball's very hard, as we know. So if he's working on these things, he's trying to improve. Rob said it's just upper body, lower body not syncing up yet, and he's going to turn that corner soon. So you can't then go send the kid down to Lehigh. When Todd wrote that, I was like, yeah, that kind of encapsulates it. Like, he's going to be on there. Now the question is he starting opening day? I would imagine, if I had to guess right now, a week out, I think he does, but I think it's going to be a real platoon here between him getting time off, depending on how he looks, Brandon Marsh sliding. I think you're going to see a decent amount of Brandon Marsh in center field to start the year. And then I think you're going to see Whit Merrifield he's probably going to end up playing 3 or 4 days a week, maybe even 4 if he's getting 2 starts in left field. So maybe it's a platoon between Marsh and Rojas to start. I know the way I'm talking right now sounds like there's no room for Cristian Pache, but we'll see. But I think you're going to see a decent amount of Whit Merrifield in left field. And I was thinking about this morning, making the girls' eggs. If they didn't sign Whit Merrifield, this is what I think about.
I love how you add as you're making eggs for the girls.
I've perfected the scrambled eggs. I'm pretty good at it. But I was thinking, like, man, if they didn't sign Whit Merrifield, this would kind of be a disaster.
Kind of. It absolutely would be.
Because, if Rojas goes out there and he's sub 500 OPS and hitting 116 for a month, like, you'd be playing probably Cave. Maybe there's a chance that Dahl makes the team or Pache. Whoever, it just wouldn't be a good situation. So, in other words, 2-hit Whit, thank you for choosing us over the Braves, because he did say the Braves recently were one of the other teams he considered not being a starter for.
Thankfully.
So thank you, Whitley. We appreciate you.
Thankfully, because this is a big part of what we've been discussing even since the playoffs last year. I remember in the postseason, having this flexibility that, okay, if Johan Rojas isn't ready, but you still want to have him on the roster, but he's not ready to get the opening day start, you can slot Whit Merrifield in. You can move Brandon Marsh over. This gives them flexibility. Now, on the reverse side of that, if Rojas, depending on what happens, and he should be on the roster from the start, if Rojas makes the team, the Phillies do now only have that one bench opening. And now you're choosing between the final spot of Jake Cave and Cristian Pache. I've been very Cristian Pache all spring training on that bandwagon because I've really enjoyed his consistent at-bats and how he's been playing. And I just feel like with Jake Cave, we've seen enough from him already. But the issue is, for someone like Jake Cave, of course, he's a lefty, and also he can pinch hit. So he always gets the pass because of that. But we also know that both Pache and Cave are out of options, so you could lose either player if they do not make the team, and it's a matter of who would you rather lose. I'd rather lose Jake Cave than Cristian Pache, but I am glad that the Phillies made moves like Whit Merrifield, David Dahl, even Jordan Luplow recently. They brought in some guys that can be utility pieces on the everyday roster, but also can fluctuate between the minors and the major league team.
And who else has options for you, Renee? That's the lovely people over at Empire Today. They're never running out of options. You don't have to send them down to Lehigh Valley. They're always Citizens Bank Park ready. And EmpireToday.com/PHLY. That's right, you can get $350 off new floors. With Empire Today, you get that shop-at-home convenience. The internet age has ruined me and retail stores. I don't like leaving home. I do all my shopping online.
I'm surprised, actually. You seem like you're such a...
I mean, occasionally, but I like being at home. I like swiping on my phone. You can set up an appointment with Empire Today, and they'll come right to your house with the products that you need. There's a lot of imitators out there these days, but what Empire Today does is the best, and it's time-tested, and they've been around forever. Everybody knows the jingle. And what they do now is they've integrated modern technology into their home visits, and they can give you a virtual floor design in your house so you see how the flooring looks with your lighting, with your cabinets, with your countertops, with your paint, whatever it is, right there in your home. You get to see it, and they're not going to, bog you down with thousands and thousands of choices. What they do is you thin it down to the best, hear your needs, and find exactly what you're looking for. Everything that they use, they would use in their own homes. And they won't promise the lowest prices, but who does that, putting flooring in your homes, when you want the best quality and service? Shopping for floors should be simple, and they've curated a product selection right to you. So select a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off when they use the promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHLY for details.
Empire Today. All right. Well, I know as you guys are talking through, continue the conversation in the chat around who you'd rather have. Would you rather have Pache walk? Would you rather have Cave walk? Who, your thoughts on who takes those final spots. And if you also want to ask somebody else about it, you can also talk to our friends over at Mortgage CS about it, because over at Mortgage CS, which stands for Mortgage Concierge Service, they're a white glove service located right here in Philly. Ben and Alec at Mortgage CS are available 24/7 around the clock, not only to talk to you about your house buying, but if you want to talk to them about maybe any questions you have on who should be on the final spots for the Phillies roster, who should get to start opening day, you can reach out to them any time of day to ask any question that you may have. Cell phone number for CEO Ben is right there on your screen. That number here, down low, 267-391-7425. You can reach out via email, ben@mortgagecs.com. Ben and Alec want to make sure when you hear the word mortgage, you think of Ben and Alec. You think of Mortgage CS, because they do a tremendous job providing exceptional customer service, educating and empowering you, also making sure to help their clients find ultra competitive rates, and making sure that as you're preparing to step out there on the spring market, which is constantly heating up, that you are prepared to make the best offer, the strongest offer possible for you and for your family that fits you, and not Mortgage CS and their bottom dollar. Now, at Mortgage CS, they also offer refinancing options, so you have a chance to take advantage of their rate and term refinances for a rate payment reduction or cash out refinances. Maybe you're looking to tap into some home equity or make a smart choice for, high interest debt, funding home projects. Mortgage CS can make that process a lot simpler for you. So take away the stress of the house buying, whether you're a first-time home buyer looking to buy that dream house, looking to maybe get a fixer-upper. Mortgage CS is the place to go to be able to get all the insight, the customer service, the great opportunities to be able to find rates that work best for you and for your family. So head on over to mortgagecs.com/PHLY to get started today, and know that this advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply, and the company NMLS ID number 1464766. You can visit mortgagecs.com for more information. All right, so I love that you guys are so consistent in understanding the flow of our show that you're predicting what's next. They're asking about which ad reads we have, and you guys did this yesterday too. You're trying to predict, you're trying to figure out where we're going with next. But next, let's get into our top 3 Phillies pitchers of all time, because we've been working through our depth chart and figuring out top 3 for each position. We did catchers yesterday. We've been working our way around, and now we are looking at top 3 starting pitchers, keeping in mind just their time with the Phillies and the numbers and performance and accolades that they were a part of. So starting things off at number 3 for our pitchers, this is an iconic name, which was such a classic name in the early 1900s, Mr. Grover Cleveland Pete Alexander himself.
I like how they throw the Pete in there.
I know. This is such a classic early 1900s name. He played with the Phillies from 1911 and 1917, and then again in 1930. So 8 total years with the Phillies, 280 starts, was 190 and 91 was his record with a 2.18 ERA. He pitched for 2,513 and 2/3 innings with a 1.07 WHIP and over 1,400 strikeouts, having 2.51 strikeouts per walk, and led the league 5 times in strikeouts, 6 times in inning pitched, 5 times in, I can't read words, strikeouts, and 5 times in wins. Grover Cleveland, one of the best pitchers to ever come through the Phillies, one of the best in his time, and someone that has had such a remarkable career. That 2.18 ERA with the team, second all time, top all time, third most in wins all time, top in strikeouts, top in a number of areas, and definitely someone that dealt with a lot, especially even in his time period. He dealt with hearing loss and the war-related epilepsy and a lot that was going on in the early 1900s, also some alcohol issues, but it's still a Hall of Fame career that Grover Cleveland had, and definitely deserving of being on this top 3 list.
Yeah, there's some really good pitchers. I mean, when you talk about Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, Cole Hamels, Kurt Schilling, some of these guys, it's hard to exclude them, but I think a plaque in Cooperstown is probably a deciding factor. You have to go off of the guy's era, and as you said, he's one of the best of his era. Was absolutely filthy. Won the pitching triple crown for 3 consecutive years. I mean, that's just That's just absolute filth. His ERA over 2,000 plus innings is disgusting. So here's a quote. His sinking fastball seemed fashioned from cement, Roger Kahn wrote in the book The Head Game. No one consistently hit it into the air. So he had a sinking fastball that nobody could touch back then. And, it made him one of the best pitchers ever. It's one of those names that's just synonymous with baseball. Everybody seems to know it. And the Phillies' top 3 pitchers are all pretty great.
Yeah, and I know you guys are asking about that time period. It's wild to think. You have to keep in perspective where things were in the world during the time of these pitchers, especially in the early 1900s. So after the 1917 season, America was at war in Europe. Phillies owner at the time, William Baker, was worried that he might lose Alexander to the draft. He sent him to the Cubs as part of a 4-player trade that netted the Phillies a whopping $65,000. And
that was probably a lot of coin back then.
It was. And he was correct because Grover Cleveland only played in 3 games in 1918 for Chicago before being sent off to war as the Great War was going on during that time. So it's wild to think about. Of course, there were team moves, but there was also a whole war happening at that time that also caused guys like Grover Cleveland to have to pause their baseball
Great
career,
name. Definitely
go off
passed
to
the
war,
name test.
And then come back to pitch. So yeah, one of the best to pitch in baseball. One of the best definitely to pitch for the Phillies. All right, number 2, and you guys are guessing in the chat. I'm curious to know your thoughts on number 2 and number 1. Number 2 for us, though, we're going with Robin Roberts. 14 years. Don't make me laugh.
All I do is look at you.
14 years with the Phillies, 472 starts, had a 234 and 199 record, a 3.46 ERA, over 3,700 innings pitched, had a 1.171 WHIP, 1,871 strikeouts, which is 2.61 strikeouts per walk. 6 times he pitched over 300 innings. 6 times he had over 20 wins, and is that an 8 or 5?
That's an 8.
8 times.
I catch a 9er in there.
I can't.
I'm not even going to ask you what movie, Renee.
No, so I'm trying to get. 8 times 20 plus completed games and 35 strikeouts.
Shutouts.
Shutouts. I can't read words. So yes, when you look at Robin Roberts, definitely had a remarkable career with the Phillies. He also was part of the Whiz Kids, one of the originals, and one of the greatest.
Yeah, a complete game machine. He once threw 28 consecutive complete games, which is just kind of bonkers to think about in terms of today's game, where complete games are hardly even accomplished anymore.
It's not a thing anymore.
Here's, I think, all I need to say about this, and then I'll let Tyler chime in. This is a quote from this guy named Willie Mays. Pretty good baseball player. Some consider him one of the best
I've
ever.
heard of him.
Yeah,
He's
people have
pretty
heard
good.
of him. He was the top pitcher at that time. Quote, end quote. When Willie Mays says you're the best pitcher of your time, that includes Warren Spahn and Early Wynn and Whitey Ford and Bob Lemon and Don Newcomb, Robin Roberts was as good as anyone. He led the league in strikeouts, innings pitched, shutouts. He was only second to Warren Spahn. His ERA was consistently top 5. He was just a monster, one of the best pitchers of his era, and a top 3 Phillies pitcher of all time. Tyler?
Yeah, so last year, the leader in complete games was Sandy Alcantara and Jordan Lyles.
Last year?
Last year.
Alcantara did that many? I'm going to go with 4.
I was gonna say 3.
3.
3, okay.
He had 3. Jordan Lyles had 3. A handful of guys had 2, and then a whole bunch of dudes had 1.
That's wild.
Listen, I understand it's a different time
Sure.
and era, and it just doesn't work that way anymore. But like the era of throwing 300 innings. Let me rephrase that. The era of throwing 200 innings is an accomplishable feat in today's game. And this guy, for 6 consecutive years, went over 300 innings, 304, 315, 330, 346. You get my point. And he led the league in innings pitched 5 consecutive years. So, like, on top of the fact that even in his era, he was throwing a lot of innings, 30 complete games, 33 complete games, led the league in shutouts one year with 5, and then didn't lead the league in shutouts the next year with 6. I think that this guy is almost undervalued when you talk about the great. arms of all time because, he piled up some losses. He does have 245 losses. He consecutively led the league in losses with 18 and 22. They were two, rough years in 56 and 57. But 6 consecutive years he won 20 or more games. The numbers that mattered in his era, he accomplished.
Yeah.
The numbers that matter now are not the same as the 1950s and 1960s. But when you're talking about guys in that era, wins were big, innings pitched were big, complete games were big. He accomplished it all.
Willie Mays quote.
Yeah.
Willie Mays quote, yes.
End of story.
So per season from 1950 to 55, as you were talking about, Tyler, this is remarkable that he averaged 322 innings, 27 complete games, won at least 20 games.
322.
320. Ranger was talking about just hoping to get over 200 innings. 322 innings. That's insane. And kept his ERA consistently at or below a 3. And then in one stretch from 1952 to 53, it gets even more remarkable, is that he went the distance in 28 straight starts, including one outing in which he pitched for 17 innings. It's just a totally different ball game this era compared to back then. Now, our final spot.
Big mystery. Who's coming here?
Real quick, guys. Here's one more stat for you. Currently active pitchers. 5 active pitchers. Now, I don't believe that they are including Zach Greinke, who I believe would be on this list, but I think they have officially announced he's retired now. 5 active pitchers have double-digit complete games in their career. This guy had multiple years of 30-plus.
Wild.
That's insane.
Verlander leads all active pitchers with complete games. He has 26.
Robin Robertson did 28 straight times.
Well, I do want to say, yes, I have seen Tommy Boy, by the way. I just cannot give you a quote from it. So
Did I catch a 9er in there?
yeah, I can't. I don't know the quotes from Tommy Boy, but I wasn't a big fan of the movie. But you know who I was a big fan of? And you guys are right in your guess for number 1 because it's Lefty Steve Carlton. All right, Steve Carlton, who the Phillies received in 1972 for a whopping amount of money because the Cardinals refused to give him at the time a $10,000 raise. And because the Cardinals refused to give him that $10,000 raise, the Phillies took him off their hands, and the rest was history. 15 years with the Phillies, just under 500 starts, had a 241, 161 record, a 309 ERA, pitched for almost 3,700 innings. He had a 1.211 whip, 3,031 strikeouts. He also had a 2.42 strikeout to walk, 4-time Cy Young winner, which is the 3rd most, and also had 185 complete games and 39 shutouts. And for Steve Lefty Carlton, listen, thank you, Cardinals, for not giving him that $10,000 raise because the Phillies gladly took him off your hands, and we're glad to have him leading this club for 15 years.
Yeah, Lefty. It's synonymous. He's probably the best. Him and I would take him over Koufax, but he's in Spahn. One of the Koufax was a short period of time, short career. Tyler gave me the cross.
You're missing one. I mean, I still think
Randy
Carlton's
Johnson?
one, but Randy Johnson's the other one you have to consider.
Yeah, Randy's
the
definitely up
guy
there.
won Cy Youngs into his 40s.
Yeah, Randy Johnson's up there. But
to me, it's those two.
I probably would go Lefty. Look, I didn't get to watch Lefty play, but he won 4 National League Cy Young Awards. Gary Matthews has one of the great quotes of all time about Lefty. We called it win day. Whenever he would take the mound, the team just assumed they were going to win. He's just incredible. A 13-year stretch with the Phillies.
Wild.
So not only does he get the longevity, but 230-plus wins in that time. He has a career 65.4 WAR. Only 2 pitchers of his era ranked better than that, was Phil Niekro and Burt Blyleven. Just one of the best seasons ever in baseball history in 1972. He won 27 games with a sub-2 ERA. Lefty, man. He's got one of the best nicknames in all of baseball.
What's kind of funny about that move that Renee you were talking about because they wouldn't give him a raise? The Phillies traded Rick Wise to St. Louis to go get Steve Carlton. Rick Wise had a pretty good 2-year run with the Cardinals. He won 32 games. He had 3.1 and a 3.7 ERA. He was an All-Star in 71 with the Phillies. Was an All-Star in 73 with the Cardinals. Pretty good run. I mean, you acquire Rick Wise, you go, okay, this is a good arm. And then Steve Carlton, all he does is win 27 games, lead the league and earn ERA, complete games, innings pitched, strikeouts. 1972 is one of the greatest seasons of all time for any pitcher ever. and you go, wow, we really wish we didn't have Rick Wise.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
lefty, good at baseball. That's what they said about him.
So there's our top three: Grover Cleveland, Robin, and Steve Lefty Carlton. And as we wrap up the show today,
Ray says we left off Jose Mesa. We did forget about Joe Table. Although
there's a lot of names, though.
Discussed.
This was tough. So
I mean, we could do closers tomorrow.
listen, yeah,
He probably makes the list of closers. Statistically speaking.
Yeah, he's got a good shot. I mean, off the top of my head,
I mean, to me, it would be
Steve
McGraw.
Bedrosian won a Cy Young as a closer.
Yeah, McGraw, Bedrosian, him, Papelbon, and Lidge are your 5, and make it to 3.
And Billy Wagner was too short a period of time, but if he was a little longer, he'd be in
So
that
that's the
mix.
thing
Yeah,
is
that's some of
Lidge's
them.
numbers. It was a short period of time
Exactly.
too. It
was
was just
great
the
year,
one. It was the
bad
one
year.
year that.
Great year, bad year.
that was the tough part. That we only have 3 spots, but also some guys, the longevity. I mean, Steve Carlton for 15 seasons alone, it's remarkable. But we will continue building out our depth chart here on the show because we're finalizing it, we're rounding it out, and then we'll be able to put it all together for one beautiful big picture of the best Phillies all time for each respective position. But as we're talking about some of the Phillies' greats and the greatest moments, we had to talk about 20 years ago. A great moment, sad moment.
Sad. Also
Yes.
great because it was a dump.
Yes.
But it was our
because
dump.
today marks the day 20 years ago that the vet was taken down. And I know we tweeted out like which player do you think of most when you think of the vet? It was a hallmark part of Philly sports history. And
Yeah, I mean, I grew up going to that toilet. I hated it, but I loved it. I got to see Terry Mulholland's no-hitter there. I won a day. It wasn't a fantasy camp. I forget what they called it, but it was like a day with the Phillies coaches. And I got to go out and play on the vet field. And John Vukovic was my camp counselor that day. And like my mom and dad used to take me down all the time. We used to do our grade school class trips there. I loved the vet, but it was an absolute shithole. And Citizens Bank Park is awesome, and the Phillies have had more success there.
Yeah. Let us know in the chat your vet memories. I
What
know
a
Nico.
dump. That turf was such crap.
And the turf has caused some issues. There's been some conspiracy about some long-term health issues, cancer and everything from it.
A lot.
Yeah.
Way too many
But
cancers.
while we're talking about it, drop your thoughts and memories, I should say, about the vet. I know Nico. What's up, Nico? You're saying the first game you went to at the vet was the home opener back in '74, featuring Carlton, Bob Gibson as the starters. Yeah, it's had some great memories.
I put this out on Twitter earlier. When I say the vet, the first Philly you think of is Tyler?
Like for me personally?
Yes, personally.
So like obviously I was
Not the greatest,
yeah,
nothing.
so
Just the first one that comes to mind.
Scott Rowland probably.
Okay.
Mine was Mike.
Michael Jack
Well, yeah, but
Schmidt.
like neither of us got to see Mike Schmidt play. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like
I mean, that's just the first name I think of. when I
okay.
think
So
of
like
the
yeah,
vet.
obviously it's Mike Schmidt. So like
I got to see Mike Jack Schmidt.
Well, I was
But-
11 years old when the vet got taken down, but I do remember the vet and the Spectrum were my first 2 stadiums that I remember as a kid, like actively my parents kind of told me about and got to go see and stuff. So my memories are different, to say the least, but
You
those
didn't
are
throw
like the
ketchup
first
bombs
2.
off the top
Those are like the-
700 level down at
No.
school buses, Renee?
Those are the first 2 like sports stadiums that I vividly have memories
And
of.
Jim
as a
Cunningham
kid
says it was
that I used
so
to love.
hot. Yeah, the turf. It basically was like a heat trap at that
It was
stadium. And that
concrete.
stadium, I remember they used to always show the temperature in the dugout, and like the field temp would like routinely be above 110.
Do you believe the conspiracies of
Yes,
the cancer and everything?
it's been proven that chemicals came out of the turf that
Yeah.
are carcinogens, and it's
Sad.
really quite awful.
It's really sad, actually, when you think about it. I know, John Sequelli, you're saying you remember in the early 80s where Carlton and Ryan kept passing each other every other start for the all-time strikeout record. Yeah, that was something I actually had in my notes about Carlton. Ray, you're saying you're 34 years old, so hearing the vet reminds you of Bobby Abreu, first and foremost.
Bobby Baseball.
Oh, and Jim, you have vivid memories of watching games on TV in the early 80s. Loved outfield players at the time. So Gary Matthews, yeah, definitely some great times.
And it feels like so long ago, but don't forget Chase Utley's first career hit was a grand slam in the vet.
But that's the thing. It's
Like,
not that long ago.
It's not
Like,
that long
20
ago, but it
years
feels like
flew
forever
by.
ago. Yeah.
And ironically, now we're getting the details as the Phillies have just partnered with Comcast Spectacor on the development plans for the new South Philly sports complex. So as we're reminiscing in the memories of 20 years ago, the Vet being demolished, we're also getting news that the Phillies are rolling out the plans of their, new look sports complex down in South Philly, where we're expected over the next years and for it to fully be completed in 2028, which will be here before.
And then there will be
for
two
phase one.
parking lots, and
Yeah.
I'll bitch and moan even more.
Phase 1 will be completed by 2028. Phase 2 is going to obviously take much longer, but that phase 1 part does involve the lots between Patterson Ave, the Wells Fargo, a lot that's being changed.
They're building
phase.
a Soda Sopa down there, and it's
a
going to
new mid-sized concert venue, retail shops, hotels, outdoor plaza. So we're going to go from the Vet to 24 years later having a completely different look down at the sports complex.
I used to pee in a trough down at the Spectrum when I was a kid, and now we're going to have a whole mini city built down there.
I know. You'd have plenty of bathroom options.
How times have changed.
I know. Plus those upgrades to Xfinity Live. So lots of exciting things to come in the future down at the complexes, making it that much more fun to be at the games. And definitely keep sharing those memories. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button because 20 years ago feels like it was yesterday. And I feel like time just flies when you're having fun, guys, right? And it flew today again as well. So that'll do it for us here on PHLY Phillies podcast. For Tyler, Jamie, myself, Renee, thanks so much for tuning in. Darth Pooh, John, Jim, Ray, Mickey, K-Red, Provolone John, Matt, Chris, everybody that tuned in today to join us for the conversation around Ohtani, the Vet, the top pitchers, and much more. We appreciate you. Hit that thumbs up button, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for our final episode of the week, live 11 a.m. back here on PHLY Phillies podcast. Bye, guys.
We all silly like the mayor.